Welcome back, viewer, to Chungu cha Jamii. Today we are talking about online and offline dating. This is part 2. We are continuing with the conversation of where we left. Send in your question, your comment, your concern across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. So before we went on a break, what is your take on all these, the statistics that you have learned and things to do with men?
I have listened and I want to say this. I want to speak to 3 key words that I picked in the conversation. Number 1 is partnership. Number 2 is mental health. And number 3 is empowerment. Now, number 1, marriage is not a partnership. It's a covenant.
True.
The minute you get into marriage thinking that it's a partnership, I have equal shares, I have this, then you start on the wrong foundation and the wrong footing, because that's where the issue is. We get into it, the young generation gets in and says, I've brought in this money, you brought in, it's like a business. It's actually like a business transaction. Some marriages are business transactions, you know. I invested my this. So when we need to wind up the company, because it was a business, then we share the profits, including the children. They become part of. So we need to change that mindset. It's a covenant. Number 2, he spoke about suicide. Being a mental health champion in the workplace and a wellness champion, we say, of course, die by suicide. They say, if you talk to the experts, they'll tell you use die by suicide. Now, he is right. Reports have it that men do not attempt suicide. Men
Commit.
die by suicide. Women mostly attempt. You will find the biggest number is they just attempt. When a man decides to do it, he doesn't
He's in for
even start sending messages, he just goes. So, and with that, I need to say that we need to check on how people are behaving. Just check on your friends. Check on that friend of yours that was very vocal and all of a sudden is quiet, is not communicating, or that person you're dating is withdrawn. They either get into depression. Check on them, because you don't want to get to that other level. So sometimes it's a mental health issue when you hear that people have killed each other. It could be a mental health issue. It's not, there's a course that I'm doing on mental health, and from a church perspective, and I know I don't want to spark a conversation here, because a lot of this, the first place that a person who has depression and anxiety and all this runs to is the church.
True.
Or the spiritual place that they go to. And they're going there because they believe that there's help there. Now, we need to equip the church to be able to differentiate between spiritual issues and medical issues.
True.
Because that is where the challenge is. It is okay to pray for a person that has mental health issues, but don't, I've had, may not sound very nice, but it's the truth. Don't spiritualize everything such that I will lock him in church or lock him down until these prayers work on him. It is good to pray for you, but can I also take you to the professionals?
Yes.
So we need to identify which one is spiritual and which one is a mental health issue that needs to be helped. That is for the church. The other one he talked about was empowerment. The old generation, most of the women were staying at home. The current generation, The women are in the corporate space. And fortunately or unfortunately, with all respect, women are taking leadership. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And it kind of is threatening the boy child, you know, because you hear most people say, and these women have taken these seats. Look at the government spaces. The women are there. They're telling you what to do in different spaces. Look at big companies, the CEOs. There's a gifting in women in leadership, but that shouldn't make you big-headed. Now, the balance between being an empowered woman and a submissive woman is something that people need to pick.
It's shaky.
It's shaky, as he says. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with a woman being empowered. There's nothing wrong with you as a woman going to school, taking the highest offices. They say nice girls don't get the corner office. Clearly, get tough when you get into the corner office, which is usually the big office. If you're just that nice girl, you may never get there. But if you get there, don't be big-headed. He said it clearly that there's a structure in the Bible. And conversations have been there around women who are earning more than their spouses. We don't want to get there. And they are not submissive. The man gets upset. The man is like a beggar in his own home. He has no voice. He has no say. Actually, the kids are now have changed their direction. They've gone to mom. Mom has the money. Daddy has no money. And that kind of frustration now will lead to the things you see. Mm-hmm. Because, as we were saying before, culture has it that before a man comes out and says, my wife spanked me yesterday, you see the first impact, what happened?
You laugh.
You laugh. They go report it and someone says, you did what? You reported, you know? And it's okay for him to report, but when empowerment comes, I think just be level-headed.
A question to you, Esther. As a woman, doing and thriving so well in your career and in your space, married for 21 years, not a bed of roses, with its own fair challenges as well. Mm-hmm. Also a mother. Mm-hmm. How do you strike this balance to be so good at your workplace, to be a wife for the longest, to be a mother for the longest as well, whereby you're not big-headed as you're putting it, but also you're the leader in your corporate space, but rather, and at the same time when you come home, you submit. Because how do we now, the balance where we want us to get of being able to submit, because now this one has morphed more to marriage, and also because when we are now, originally this conversation is about dating. When you are dating, we are told you're not supposed to play the wife material. You're just supposed to date. But when it has morphed to relationship of marriage and we have grown, now we have also to submit. Also, when it comes to men, you're told when you're dating, you're not supposed to invest so much to this girl until you're married. So I'm lost here whereby we are dating. I don't know what I'm going to get myself into, because this dating space is the learning space. If I don't know you as a man, Benjamin, then what am I signing up to? If I don't know you as a woman, Esther, what am I signing up to? We're in marriage, that's a whole story altogether, where we want you to talk about now the submissive part. But here when we are learning each other, to what extent are you supposed to give as a man and as a woman for you to go to the next level of now submitting? Because I'll stay here waiting for 5 years and still not seeing what I want to see in marriage. And you're not delivering for those 5 years. You're waiting for us to get married.
So where do I start, the dating or the submitting?
We start with the dating,
No,
proceeding to the submission.
with the dating, I think it depends on where you want to go. There are those that are dating for fun, and I said that.
Sure.
But if you're dating with your mind fixed on marriage, then your conversation needs to go in that direction. And you need to be very candid. I'm one very candid person. I'll tell you, I like this, I don't like this. So you deal with it. Deal with it from the start. I don't like this, I don't like, and we were very honest with my spouse, and we actually, it looks very interesting. We sat down and said, let's just sit down and write, what is it that you would like to do in the house and what you don't like? Including washing clothes. I don't like. If I don't like, I don't like. I don't have to pretend. And then when I get inside, I say, I didn't mean that. It's if you like cooking and you don't like the dishes, just be candid. Let's get into it knowing that this is the person I am. Or I don't like this kind of language. I don't like this kind of behavior. It looks like I'm getting bossy from the start, but I'm just simply saying, and he's also saying, there's a line here. If you cross this one,
things are not going to look good.
Things may not be very good. So you get into it knowing this is the kind of a person, but it's rare to get people who will do those things and have those conversations. But I think we get into dating and we are talking about things that don't even
add up.
They don't add up. It's okay to talk about football, but we will not be playing football in the house.
Exactly.
So can we just discuss things that matter if we are heading in the same direction of marriage?
Sure.
Because that way, at that point, you will decide, do I really want to get into this one? A man will just come and say, I don't get into the kitchen. They were trained that way. I don't wash utensils. I don't cook. I don't do this. I have a husband who loves cooking. I'm blessed.
Before you say, as I also give Esther a chance to finish, as you hold on to that, maybe ask you, when you're talking about now this, you're being candid and stating what you want and not being bossy. At what time are you supposed to talk about all this? Because again, we're in the dating space. Do we start it from day one? Or do we start it from the second date? And what are we even? Because right now we have the working space whereby I only talk with my man when we meet. We don't have phone calls, we don't have conversations away from. So if you're meeting in the next 1 month, that is the time we're going to have an actual conversation. Before then, we are all busy with our working space and programs and everything. But when we meet, we have conversation. When do we start now this serious conversation whereby now we are stating all these things? As a man, I don't do kitchen, I don't do A, B, C, D. As me as a man, I prefer, I can do everything. I don't mind. And me as a woman,
I think you can't do that in the first date. This is also the tension, These people are hunters. So when the hunter gets it, I think you allow yourselves to flow in that conversation. First, get to understand the person. That there's that moment of, I want to know who you are, and it's those conversations of and what do you do, and because sometimes maybe you even met him among many other people, and then all of a sudden the two of you have picked each other and gone into a side chat. So just have the normal conversation. You throw in a question today and you're like, either tick the box or just an X. Throw in another one, where are you going from now? And let me tell you, some conversations that you need to have from the start is where the man is going as a leader. Because if he has no direction, then I don't need to have a second conversation with you. I'm sorry. If he doesn't know where he's going, a man who says he will find out where he's going when he gets you, my friend, the two of you will be lost. So if he doesn't know where he's going, honestly, you can't just board a bus and the driver doesn't know where it's going. Unless it's just a therapeutic trip. I think you need to avoid, give him the space to, for lack of a better word, grow up and get ready for this. But I know he's breathing hard, but getting into that dating space, I first want to know who he is. I don't even care where he comes from first, as in like tribe or whatever, but where is he going as a person? Because if we're not going in the same direction, then we will have issues, you know? As a spiritual person, I want to know his footprints because I want to be in safe hands. It depends on what you're looking for. But for me, born again, God first was an non-negotiable. You need to have your non-negotiables as a man and as a woman. No, it's true for me because if we are not going in this direction, my friend, it will take us a bit longer. On the submission bit and the empowerment, I think it's how you get into marriage first. We need to understand that today you could be the one with the biggest salary in the house and tomorrow you have nothing. Sure. Because it is God who gives you the power to make wealth. And when God gives you wealth in a family, He doesn't give it so that it brings issues in the home. Financial issues are very sensitive in a marriage, very sensitive. You can talk about communication, sex, and many other things. You need to understand what are the needs of a man, and the man needs to understand the needs of a woman. This conversation is going in a different direction, but when you understand that, and you know that a man values respect more than the money, then you give it to him and allow him be. If you're the woman making all the money, you don't have to make noise. You can make the money, but you don't make the noise. Be a wise woman and just team up. The two of you will go very far. They say if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, bring other people together. So bring your husband together and put that in one place. Women don't want to hear that. They're like, oh, I'm not going to be that foolish woman who puts my money there. But also understand your spouse. I'll say that one auntie of mine, she's late, and she told me, thank God for the man you have, because some of the men, you give them the money and the next day, 2, 3, 4 days, he's not at home because he got an access to. Every marriage is different. Every marriage is different. Every spouse is different. Don't compare your spouse with another spouse. The worst mistake you can make. That man does this. That man drives this. That man comes home with this. That man is not your man. So understand your own structure at home, but the godly structure doesn't change. It's a man at the top. When you come home with your high heels, just remember that you're the wife in the home. And I think that helps. It actually helps, and it doesn't mean you're lesser than anybody else. It just brings order. God is a God of order. It just brings order in the home. Now I can allow him to respond.
No question. What's your take on the same?
I'm happy because I was able to listen to Madam Esther about many things. You know, I'll talk about, I don't know why I love this phrase, which comes from one of the writers. And then he said like this, a fool thinks he's wise, but wise men know that they are fools. The moment they know that they are fools, their ears are open to learn and to listen from other people.
Sure.
In mind education, there is a topic which is listening, but in the corporate world, it's communication. And great CEOs and these owners of companies that you see are great listeners. They listen a lot. You know, when it comes to issues to do with marriage, and let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I want to focus much on the heart because it speaks about something, as Madam Esther was saying. The spirit of a man will sustain him in infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear? No, the spirit, you know, the spirit that is put in that person, whether he's a young person, whether he's a baby, you know, Eunice will behave exactly as what you saw. If your father was fighting with your mother, I'm telling you, you cannot balance your marriage. The moment that your husband will raise their voice, kidogo tu, the bigger picture comes from home. You know, Madam Esther spoke about something which was very important. And I remember one of my mentors, he said like this: before his daughter or his son gets married, given a chance, he would want to go back and then think much about where, you know, this brings now the openness and communication between the kids and the parents. Where is that place that you have seen someone? And then he said, I will not tell them no, but I would want to do research. What would be my research? I would want to know the background of these people. Because if your mother was a drunkard, she came home at midnight, drunk, and then she's shouting everywhere. How can I control you not to drink? You know, my father was fighting with my mother, and then you're expecting when my daughter gets into that family, then she'll be very okay. This guy learns from the father. That's why even, I don't know whether it's Madam Esther who said charity begins at home. From there, that's where now they get everything that they will live with it. It doesn't matter about the generation gap now. But there are things that will reflect, and then they will say, no wonder my mother used to tell me like this. That's why my father was telling me like this. Oh, that's why my father was treating my mother like this, because this woman, her head is like a stone. She cannot listen. You understand? So the spirit that is instilled in that man or that girl child will sustain them in which infirmity. Once they get to meet now with difficulties and challenges and what, this is now where it comes now to the formation of a strong heart. How strong was that heart as they were growing? How did they learn? Because if you want to get a healthy body, let's not talk about a healthy body, a strong body, like the weightlifters. At the time they're starting, it's very painful because the muscles have to stretch and get, you know, the same way with the heart of man, it has to have to do that kind of exercise. And what is that kind of exercise? Meeting with challenges, colliding with challenges and difficulties. But most of the people, when you see the way parents bring up their kids, they try to make them to avoid challenges and difficulties. She's a big, you know, I've gone to places and then you hear a very big woman, and I talk Kamami. You know, she's like, yes, I'm Kamami. You know, that kind of a thing, the kind of spirit that you put in that woman, the kind of spirit that you put in that boy child will sustain them. But the problem is this, Eunice, many people have a very weak heart. Many people cannot control themselves. They do not have that self-control. Why? Because they lived a life that, you know, we were just living anyhowly. So what? You talk about money, what? No, I'm telling you, power is not money. Power is in communication, as Madam Esther is speaking. come, sit down, let's talk. Then there are many, of course, you will say, and most of the people who cannot sustain their families, they will shout and say, no, not my family, not like that. But they are selected few. They sit down and nobody can tell whether it's Eunice who is making a lot of money or whether it's the husband who is making a lot of money.
Allow me to interrupt. I'm being told that you are running out of time. And I can see we have not yet even touched half of what you're supposed to talk. This one is very broad. But please, your take home or your parting shot in less than a second. Starting with you, Benjamin.
For me, I would say like this. People left God. People left the fountain of living waters. People are looking for happiness, joy, peace in the things that cannot bring them peace. They only need to return to the fountain of living waters. And then from there, everything will come back to normal.
To you, Madam Esther.
Wow. Because I am a mental health champion, I will say this, that we need to prioritize holistic wellness in the family, in the workplace, just being able to check on each other, and not just checking on each other, taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, psychologically, physically, socially, environment-wise. I always say self-care is not selfish. Take care of yourself, protect yourself, invest in yourself, make the right decisions. Yes.
Thank you so much for honoring our invite. Viewer, I hope you've learned as much as I have. Self-care is not selfishness. Let's continue this conversation online across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. Till next time, have a nice time. Goodbye.